And with this, I have the pleasure of moving on to the inaugural session and would invite our panelists, Mr. Nitin Ramesh Gokarn, Principal Secretary, Public Works Department, Government of Uttar Pradesh, Mr. Godala, Dr. Godala Kiran Kumar, Managing Director, South Bengal State Transport Corporation, and Mr. Saurabh Jain, who is Resident Commissioner Kerala. Until recently, he was Secretary Urban Development. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the 76th SKOCH Summit being organized with the underlying theme of state of governance. Goes without saying that improving governance has always been the key to transforming India. Technology has come in handy. The attempt is to reduce / eliminate, if possible, the physical interface between the common man and the government. And we have seen this has been successfully implemented over various projects, which is the railway reservation, the passports, the registration of companies, which is MCA 21. And this happened long ago. And all these have, all these projects have matured well over 20 years and they have been working well. Nearly all of India's population is at least one time vaccinated. People are on the move, livelihood opportunities are opening up, estimates indicate that economy is bouncing back and digital is on an uptick. UPI transactions have jumped 19 times in the last 7 years. And if we go by the report which is published in today's newspapers, it is done by CMC Vellore. And it says very clearly that India has now entered into an endemic stage from pandemic stage. And the analysis say very clearly that, there has been days from 450,000 cases per day coming in to nearly 10 to 11,000 cases per day, out of which more than 82% happen to be asymptomatic cases, and the rest are also not very severe. So this, if continues for a little longer, then we will have the pandemic converted into endemic, and this will be behind us. Then this will be one common flu, which is what we face on a day in, day out. So given this situation, there have been a few economic drivers. There has been a strong rebound in consumption. Exports performance has improved. Industrial production has also gone up. This can be, certified by way of seeing the port cargo traffic and taking days for the consignments to move, although it's still happening on a fast track. Vehicle sales have gone up, and a whole lot of things, which is what we see, are happening around us. But within this, if the informal economy, which was at 52% of GDP in 2018, as a result of the last 2 years, pandemic crisis, has shrunk to 15 to 20% in the last fiscal, which is a matter of worry. So there are always two sides of the coin. India continues to move. An important aspect of good governance is the simplification of procedures. We have invested years in simplifying those, and today, post-pandemic, it is coming in handy. But yes, there are hiccups even there as well. So today, with the participation of districts, municipal corporations, state police, and state departments, we have seen the kind of work which has been put in has only improved and has gone notches up over the last as many years, and we are happy, and we have been very happy documenting all these successes. And today, people compete with each other, saying that I not only want my good work to be recognized, but I also want my state to be ranked higher than the others, and there should also be as much learning for the others. So that's why I say that we are today part of SKOCH Parivar, of which you are also an integral part. And we continue to be guided by our chairman, Mr. Samir Kochar, reforms historian and author of Modenomics. And with this, I have the pleasure of inviting Dr. Godala Kiran Kumar, Managing Director, South Bengal State Transport Corporation. And it's been 3 years that he has been heading SPSTC. And as we heard him speak, that he has made it one of the most forward-looking IT-enabled transport corporations across the country. And from online ticket reservation to safety to integrated traffic management system. SBSTC has a vision to make it not only efficient and self-sufficient, safe, environment friendly, and connect the unconnected areas, which is more important. Expand to go to the nook and corner of the state. Even during pandemic, he responded to the situation and repurposed his fleet. So, Dr. Godala, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Gursharan, and a very good morning to all the distinguished panelists and also the participants in this 76th SKOCH Summit. And I'm absolutely thrilled to participate in this summit. Every time we look forward for the SKOCH Summit, where development dialogues takes place and a lot of new inputs we receive from the various participants. So this time also we are participating in this SKOCH Summit, and also you have given me an opportunity to be a panelist this time, and I'm really thankful to you. And this time we are participating in this SKOCH for our Vision 2025 project. Actually, South Bengal State Transport Corporation, we are headquartered here in Durgapur in Paschim Bardhaman district in West Bengal, and we have around 20 depots now, and we are basically operating our buses in the remotest districts of West Bengal, like Purulia, Bankura, Jhargram, and also we operate buses to Kolkata. So when I took charge as managing director here, at that time, there was like Honorable Chief Minister, Madam, she comes to the districts regularly, and she conducts meetings regularly, especially these administrative review meetings. After she has become the Chief Minister, she has been touring the districts intensely, and she has been conducting administrative review meetings. And in these administrative review meetings, all the district level officers participate, and also the local public representatives participate, and all the issues related to districts are being discussed in these administrative review meetings. And CM Madam wanted this, especially the backward districts of West Bengal, like Jhargram, Bankura, and all these places to be connected well, so that the people will get mobility, and also that will help in the socio-economic development of the region. And so in all the administrative review meetings, there were repeated demands from the public representatives and district level officials for special bus services. And Madam, because she used to respond to the requests from the local representatives and district officials, and she used to ask us to start the bus services. And as per her initiative only, we have started one depot in the Jhargram district, which is a tribal district and a remote district in West Bengal. And she has taken initiative to get depots and terminals started in many districts of Jamal Mahal. And at this point of time, SBSTC, I joined as managing director, and our chairman last year, he passed away, unfortunately, fighting COVID. And we discussed about this, like in every meeting, Madam is coming up with suggestions and as per the representatives, public representatives request, but we don't have any concrete plan for operation of the bus service or the development of the infrastructure. Then we thought that it would be wise if we can come up with a vision document and also with a perspective plan. And we started working on it. We formed a committee with the officers of the corporation, and we have consulted the district magistrates and also the public representatives regarding their particular demands and their vision for the improvement of mobility in their districts. And with all the inputs from the representatives and also from the district level officers, we came up with a vision plan, vision and also a perspective plan. And our vision, like we have come up with a vision statement which is like to provide efficient, safe, comfortable, affordable and environment friendly public transport in West Bengal in self-sufficient manner, and to serve all the sections of the society with special emphasis on unconnected areas. If you can kindly see our vision statement, you will find that we have in the vision statement also we have given emphasis on the unconnected areas, especially like these tribal districts, Purulia, Bankura, Jhargram, and the tribal areas of Birbhum. This was our main target. And we have come up with a vision also and also a perspective plan. And as I have said earlier, that the corporation, like it has been started in the year 1962, and after that, a lot of changes happened. But mostly, like some depots came up in Bardhaman district and also in the districts adjoining Kolkata, like East Midnapur and North Chobbish Parganas. But never these tribal districts before 2011, not much focus was given as far as mobility is concerned about these tribal districts. So we came up with a plan, and our plan in the first target which we have identified is that we have to open depots in the places which are still not connected, so that if I start a bus service also from Kolkata to a remote place, our officers and our staff will run for some time, and again because of lack of demand or some other reason, they may again discontinue. If we come up with a depot, then because the buses are stationed in that particular district, so that will help in improving the services. This was our idea, and we came up especially this Katra, Gopiballapur, Bandwan, Belpahari, Sabang, Raghunathpur, all these Man Bazar, all these places are remote parts of the state and also tribal dominated districts. And we have also planned to improve our fleet, like how much fleet we will add every year, and after condemnation, how many buses will be on the road. We have identified this also, and we have targeted that by 2025 we will increase our fleet strength to 1252 buses, and now we have reached around 945 buses. And one of the priority area for the corporation while preparing the vision was to we were the pioneers in West Bengal in starting these CNG buses. In 2017-18, we pursued with the Environment Department of Government of West Bengal, and they allotted us fund for procurement of CNG buses, so that environment friendly buses can be introduced. And now we have a fleet of 60 CNG buses, and we as per our perspective plan, we have targeted that we will increase the fleet strength of the CNG buses to 250 by 2025, and already we have 60 CNG buses, and recently we have come up with a proposal to convert the existing diesel buses to CNG, and we have already started working on 100 buses, and within 3 months 100 diesel buses will be converted to CNG, and provided we get sufficient funds from the government for this purpose, we have targeted 250 buses, but in fact we want to convert our entire fleet to CNG by 2025 as per our amended this plan. And I am from Andhra Pradesh, and since my childhood I have seen the bus terminals in Andhra Pradesh, where bus terminals is like the center of the city. All the small towns also have a bus terminus, and bus terminus has all the facilities, like you have a proper waiting place for the passengers, you have other requirements like toilets and all those things. But in Bengal, these terminals are not that strong, and not very few good bus terminals are there. In the last 7-8 years, many new terminals have come up, but we as a corporation, we plan to modernize all the existing terminals of the corporation by 2025 with all modern facilities. And as I have mentioned earlier, we have a plan to induct 250 CNG buses, and also to convert our existing fleet to diesel fleet to CNG. So for this, we need in-house CNG pumping stations, and we have identified this in our vision and perspective plan. And we have already started working on this. And 4 CNG stations are coming up, in one in Durgapur, one in Arambagh, one in Bankura, and another in Purulia in the coming 3 months. And we have a plan to install CNG stations in all the depots by 2025. And because our corporation is dependent on the government of West Bengal for development and also for providing wages. Without the subsidy of the government, it is very difficult for the corporation to run because the fuel prices are going up, and we have around 3,000 staff. We have to pay wages to them. So during the preparation of this plan, we have pondered upon this, whether we could utilize our existing infrastructure commercially wherever possible, so that we can earn some additional revenue. And we have already identified some depots in Durgapur. We have a depot in the central location of the city. Purulia, Midnapur, Belgoria is adjoining Kolkata. Diga is a tourist destination. Here we have a big chunk of land, and we plan to utilize this commercially. And in Durgapur, already we have started this project, and we have already floated tender for the public-private partnership for more restaurants, and the work is in progress. And in Belgoria, Diga, Purulia, Midnapur also, by 2025, we will come up with similar arrangements where we can utilize our existing infrastructure for commercial purposes. And while discussing the vision and while formulating the vision and preparing the perspective plan, our main motive is to connect the remote parts of the state, and also to connect all the blocks of the state, as far as our jurisdiction is concerned in South Bengal, with the state capital, so that people will have mobility. And as all of us know that people always want to travel to the capital city for all the purposes like employment, medical purposes, and all those things. And we want to connect every block of South Bengal with the state capital by dedicated service by 2025. And we have developed a integrated transport management software also, and right now we are implementing it also. Some of the modules are already operational, and last year we have participated in the SKOCH for this project, and we got gold also for this. And our ITMS is right now being implemented, and by 2025 we plan so that all our modules are operational. This also, like this ITMS as a part of the vision. Before that, we were doing everything in a piecemeal manner, like booking. Certain issues are there, so we are doing something for booking, for something for inventory. During the preparation of this perspective plan, we deliberated upon this, and we planned that we will come up with this ITMS. And we want to develop women-friendly facilities also by 2025, like special dormitory, special services for women. This we have already started working on it, and by 2025 we will definitely achieve it. And as I have been repeating since the beginning of my presentation, this our target and our main motto, and as per the instruction of Honorable Chief Minister, who is always worried about the development of these tribal areas and backward areas. We want to induct at least 250 new services for Jungle Mahal by 2025, and already around 125 buses we have started in these districts. And in extension to what we have planned, like connecting every block with the state capital, we have also planned that we should connect each Gram Panchayat with the district headquarters, so that people can get assured services, and that will also help in the socio-economic development. And apart from these, we have also planned to start city services in Durgapur, Asansol, Bardhaman, and Haldia. And we have already started city services in Durgapur, and we have started few services in Asansol. And in Bardhaman and Haldia, most probably electric buses, because government of West Bengal, they want to go big on electric vehicles. And as far as I know, they have a plan to procure around 1,000 electric buses in the FAME 2. So government of West Bengal may allot some buses to us also. So we want to do these city services with electric vehicles, and hopefully we will start in coming 1 year. And our workshop also, as part of this perspective plan, we have thoroughly discussed about the improving the mechanical side of the corporation, and we want to we have already brought in many changes as far as the workshop and this procurement is concerned, and we will try to implement our plan by 2025 for the operation of well-equipped workshop with modern facilities. And as part of the vision 2025 in this perspective plan, we have identified key performance indicators also, like what would be our key performance indicators, and where we want to see ourselves as far as these KPIs are concerned in the year 2025. And like apart from the fleet and the buses on road, percent of fleet utilization, number of routes, effective kilometer, and EPKM, earning per kilometer, and CPKM is very important for us as far as the corporation is concerned. So we want to, right now we have earning per kilometer of 26.51, and we targeted to improve it to 28 by 2020 because of this pandemic. Services got disturbed, but hopefully we will come out of this and we will reach the target of 31.68 by 2025. And I would like to share some of the photographs, like after we have planned, after we have come up with vision and perspective plan, and with the active interest taken by Honorable Chief Minister, and she allotted fund, and also she gave us land for starting new depots, and we came up with a new depot in Kirpai, and we came up with new depot in Bandwan. We came up with new depot in Baharampur in Murshidabad district, and Sabang, our bus depot company, is under construction, and by next April we hope to inaugurate it. And we are after 2025. Recently, we have come up with a proposal to prepare Vision 2030, where we will try to all the sustainable development goals. We will try to match our targets with the SDGs, and we will try to implement Vision 3030 also. And I thank SKOCH for giving me this opportunity to remain here as a panelist and also to make my presentation. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kumar. It's been a learning experience always whenever we talk to you. We'll come back with our questions, and amongst the panelists as well as all the participants, if you have any questions, kindly keep them reserved for the end. You can put it on a Q&A chat box, and I will ask on your behalf. And we are joined by Mr. Nitin Gokarn, Principal Secretary, Public Works Department. Let me have the pleasure of introducing him once again, particularly during the COVID time. He led it from the front in rescuing workers and labor belonging to his state who were stranded across in the state of Maharashtra. Being a policy practitioner, he has had a demonstrated history of over 3 decades of experience, having worked in the government, both at the center as well as at the state level. And he has been working across domains of urban and rural planning, smart city, roads, highways, infrastructure, so on and so forth. So with this, Mr. Gokarn, over to you.
Thank you first and foremost, and a very good morning. And I thank SKOCH for giving me this opportunity to interact with all the participants and to inform what we are doing, what is it that UPPWD is doing, and where we are, and what is our roadmap. Essentially, I must say that PWD, as you are all aware, is one of the oldest departments of the government. Probably revenue and PWD, these are the original departments and very traditional in its approach. Change becomes difficult in traditional departments, but we started having e-tendering, and we also had e-measurement book on board before I had joined. This particular initiative that we looked at when we had a performance audit done by the CAG for the 2014-15, and a lot of startling facts were thrown out in doing this performance audit by the CAG. There were several contracts which were on single tender basis. More than 80 contracts were on single tenders, and therefore there was an issue as to why is it that there is no participation by contractors, and PWD is supposed to then award on a single tender basis. What is it that needs to bring in more transparency? Because whenever there were such instances, there were a lot of complaints against officials. And instead of being proactive, we were very reactive in our approach by taking action against people who had done any malpractice or had got caught in their papers while evaluating tenders. So we had a small group of very senior chief engineers who are very experienced in tender evaluation. We took the MORTH standard bidding document. The T1, T2 was adopted. The cabinet gave its approval to adopt the standard bidding document for evaluation purposes. But there was a problem that we encountered, that there are more than about 21 odd parameters on which one can evaluate. So actually, when one looks at each of those parameters, there are some parameters which are not very objective enough. It depends on each XCN as to what he interprets it. So the same tender may be responsive by some XCN, may not be responsive by some other XCN. So that again leads to a problem. There's no objectivity in it. And although the tender process in terms of submission of tender was online, the actual evaluation of who is responsive and who is non-responsive was where the problem was. And that was where a lot of complaints used to come up. I mean, I remember before we started this, almost on a daily basis, I used to get at least on an average 3 complaints. A very major issue being that of tendering itself. And whenever we called for records, invariably this issue of subjectivity always crept in. So even if we wanted to take action, unless it was a demonstrated malpractice, we were constrained and we could not take action in several of these cases. So after this group was formed, then we kind of looked at each of these and looked at what kind of documentation is required. Since we had Chanakya software where after the EMB is done, the payment is done through each particular tender project, and what is the total amount of which the government has released, and against that particular amount is taken out for expenditure. So on a real-time basis, we knew which contractor had what bidding capacity. It helped us to also freeze the bidding capacity of contractors, because the same contractors were taking contracts all across the state without having the capacity to deliver. And several of our contracts would then get stuck because they were not in a position to execute the contracts, going way beyond their capacity to execute. So once we looked at the online bidding capacities, those got populated, and several of the information that is a one-time information at the time of registration of the contractors itself, those get frozen. So it's only on specific bids and what the requirement of the bids are, which are dynamic in its nature. And those documents we started looking at and ran a pilot, after which from the last year in September, we took it full-fledged and implemented it all across the state. I'm happy to inform that UPPWD is now a pioneer in the entire country in this particular exercise. And we have more than 21,000 tenders which are on this platform. And we have evaluated more than 10,000 crores worth of projects on this and successfully awarded them. And because of this, in the initial part of our exercise, when Ferrari was launched, we had an average of 3.2 contractors per tender. Today, it has come up to about 6 contractors per tender, which implies that the number of contractors have also gone up. And overall savings to government on an overall basis, it's about 11% savings to the entire government. So we have saved more than 1,000 crores in this entire episode by doing just one reforms on e-governance. We have showcased this before the Niti Aayog. The Vice VC of the Niti Aayog was also very interested in it, and we have also showcased this entire demonstrated this entire software before all the state PWDs as well. And the state government has now asked PWD to take a lead and execute it across the other departments in the state, including the irrigation and the development authorities. And for us, it has been a very learning experience because in the initial part, there was a lot of hesitancy within the department as well. The change is not a very welcome thing in this, because a lot of subjective element which was there, a lot of authority which was being exercised by the XCN suddenly went into this system of an entire black box which nobody knew how to, the software, how nobody knew how it would react. But at the same time, a lot of goodwill has been created by within the department. A lot of good officers who wanted this objectivity brought in. They were the ones who acted as change agents. And it is ultimately, unless and until the ownership is by the department concerned, it has to be a bottom consultancy as well. So we are very proud that our entire team, right from the JEs to the contractors who got themselves registered in this entire exercise, right from the JEs to the AEs to the XCNs to the high power committee which looks after the complaints that come. Initially, there was no complaint redressal mechanism as well. So once the tender was opened, the only recourse was to court. So there were a lot of court cases which used to happen. And we would get dragged into high courts explaining as to how that particular tender has been evaluated. Today, there's a mechanism in which the contractor himself, after the responsive or non-responsive comes. Well, the thing is, once the tender date is finalized, the XCN and the SE, they have their digitally signed certificates, they log into the system. And only then that tender gets opened and the evaluation is done online through that software. The results are shown on the screen. So the contractors know who is responsive and who is non-responsive. They get a time period for 3 days in order to file their objections if somebody has been unlawfully brought in as a responsive or non-responsive. And that comes to the high power committee at the headquarters here. We haven't delegated it to the local authorities because then they come under pressure. So that's a separate organization here of engineers who look after this, and our average disposal has been about 5 to 7 days, in which the complaints that are brought in here get redressed and a decision is taken. Mostly, I have not seen any complaints come after the redressal has been done. So today, I'm happy to inform that in the last 1 year, I've had just about 2 complaints on tenders per se, that I used to have on an average of 3 complaints per day. That's the kind of reform that we've brought into the system. A lot of objectivity has been brought in, competition has been brought in, cost to government has come down, and several contracts are now getting executed at 25-30% below the value as well, which means that there's a lot of capacity that was lying idle and people were willing to do variable costing as well and give that benefit to the state government. So I'll be happy to answer any questions and also help anybody, any officer to understand. You're most welcome to come and interact with our team. And I'd be happy to handhold any of the organizations to execute this in their own departments as well. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Well, thank you, Nitinji. It's always a pleasure speaking with you and hearing and learning from your experiences, because the kind of work, whether when you were there at the center and now you have been there at the state for quite a long time, and particularly this department, the contributions have been enormous, and it's always encouraging to see as to how you have very, very efficiently and innovatively utilized and implemented technology to leverage the part of digitalization to include and improve efficiencies within that. And it's heartening to note that only 2 grievances over last 1 year. So the system is running on its own. So it is now process driven. So today, if we take Nitin Gokarn out of it, not that it is going to collapse. It's still going to be running on its own steam. So that's the biggest contribution probably that you would have made. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, sir.
We'll come back to you. And with this, now I have the pleasure of inviting Mr. Saurabh Jain, who has recently taken over as the resident commissioner. Until recently, he was the Secretary Urban Development and held several assignments ranging from IT to non-conventional energy to joint secretary at Ministry of Tribal Affairs. So, your experience has been enormous. That cuts across various domains. So I have no qualms in calling you as a versatile person and, who worked extensively with the economically advantaged as well as the disadvantaged communities across India. So over to you, Mr. Jain.
Yeah, thank you so much, and good morning to all the panelists. And I would like to thank the SKOCH Group for giving this opportunity to present the program SWACH Bharat Mission and its various achievements across the years. And I am lucky to be associated with this program right at its inception stage. So I'll just like to impress upon the need for having this program, and then I will talk about the various achievements that this program has achieved in the last 7 years. So we see the state of sanitation before the launch of SWACH Bharat Mission Urban Program, that was in the year 2014. So we have only 19% of our waste was actually being treated, and the rest was going into the landfill sites. And you can see all around the cities having huge piles of waste just being put up and giving, not only creating a lot of health issues, but it's also aesthetically was quite bad. At the launch of SBM, only around 8 million households were not having any access to the toilets. And there was it has its health implications and environmental implications, whereby there was a report of UNICEF which says that if the urban sanitation issues are treated properly, then every family in India can save up to 50,000 rupees on account of proper and good urban sanitation. One of the issues in the earlier program was that there was an absence of dedicated funding for implementing the urban sanitation and solid waste programs. And that is where there was a different approach which was adopted for the SWACH Bharat Mission Urban Program. It basically has two objectives. One was to make all our cities open defecation free. And second was the 100% scientific management of municipal solid waste in all the cities and towns. So we see after 7 years of its implementation, what all it has been able to achieve. So I'm very proud to say in terms of output, now more than 35 states have become ODF. Now we are talking about ODF plus and ODF plus plus, where ODF plus is basically the proper sustainability of our community toilets, proper ensuring the proper cleanliness of these toilets. And ODF plus plus is actually the safe containment and proper disposal of fecal sludge. More than 66 lakhs individual toilets have been constructed. More than 6.4 lakhs community toilets have been constructed. The solid waste, which was only 19% processed at the start, is now 70% processed across the country. Our 97% of the municipal wards have 100% door-to-door collection, and more than 80% has source-based segregation. In terms of outcomes, if we see what are the different outcomes which this program is able to achieve. So in terms of sanitation, now the slums have toilets, and the women feel much more safer because there are so many issues because of absence of toilets in the slums. And this has provided a greater dignity to the women which are living in the slum areas. We are able to, if many of the places in slums doesn't have adequate land in their houses for setting up of individual toilets. So where there the concept of community toilets was incorporated and community toilets was constructed. And this has really led to a lot of reduction in the diseases among the population which is living in the slum areas. More and more public toilets were constructed, and all the components of the sanitation value chain was covered as part of sanitation. If we see the outcome in terms of solid waste management, so as I was speaking about the outputs, now 100% sweeping is ensured in all the residential, commercial and public areas. Most of the wards have door-to-door segregation, and they are aware about the source segregation also. The composting has been started in the slums areas, and slums, because of that, the slums have been more cleaner with improved health parameters. And in many of the places, the women self-help group members from the urban poor communities has been involved in this door-to-door collection of waste, which has actually also improved their livelihood opportunities. There were several challenges when this program was conceived, and one was the cultural issues regarding the habit of open defecation. So one of the main issues, apart from constructing the physical infrastructure, is to bring about a behavior change among the people. Second issue was that the sanitation is a state subject, and central government can go up to a certain level. So the states are very important stakeholders when we have to bring all the states on board for ensuring that this program is succeeded. Moreover, citizens' participation is ultimately very important, and that is why this program was conceived as a Jan Andolan, where citizens are one of the main stakeholders in the implementation of these programs. What are the enablers of change which this program has brought about? So this program has come out with several competitive frameworks to motivate the cities for achieving higher degrees of cleanliness. So one of the very unique initiative taken was the yearly survey of cities in terms of their cleanliness parameters. So such a survey was launched. It is one of the largest sanitation surveys in the world, ranking cities on basis of their cleanliness status. This actually fosters a healthy competition among the cities, and the credit goes that the success can be shown in the way that initially in 2014, only 75 cities were part of this Swachh Sarvekshan, which has now more than 4,200 plus cities are part of the Swachh Sarvekshan. There was this concept of star rating protocol for garbage-free cities to ensure that more and more cities employ more and more innovative methods for ensuring garbage-free status. Then I have explained about the concept of ODF, ODF++, and ODF plus protocol. The idea was to have benchmarks and key parameters that the cities need to comply with in order to declare themselves as open defecation free status. So basically the target was shifted from just measuring the outputs to actually tracking the outcomes and ensuring that these outcomes are sustainable in the long run. There were various tools which have been constructed for monitoring and decision making. So there was a national level MIS portal which was conceived, and as states were the main stakeholders, so monthly video conferencing was ensured with the states to handhold them on various issues regarding the sanitation. Regarding the policies framework, a lot of policies have been brought about to ensure that the byproducts which have been created because of the proper management of solid waste, the more marketability can be ensured. So in terms of waste to compost, a market development assistance of rupees 1,500 was given for selling of city compost, so that the companies can come forward and set up the waste compost plants. Waste to energy also, the state discoms have been mandated that they have to buy the electricity, whatever is generated from the waste to energy plant, as well as the policies were also brought in to ensure that the waste plastic can be used in road construction. So the waste processing capacity, we see it has increased from 95 lakh million tons per annum to 180 lakh million tons per annum because of these policies regarding solid waste management. If we see the policies in the sanitation sphere, then more and more sanitation funding was given to the northeastern states. Earlier, the concept of development of urinals was not there as part of the Swachh Bharat mission, but that was also included for funding under this mission. And the fecal sludge management policy was brought about to ensure that a framework can be established for safe handling of the fecal sludge management and proper septage management. A lot of capacity building was carried out as part of this program because various states are at various level of their capacity building, and various officials which are working in the municipal bodies, they don't have the capacities to actually implement such big projects. So for improving their capacities, an e-learning portal was designed where 180 best practices in sanitation and solid waste management was included. More than 55,000 municipal staff has completed more than 9 lakh courses on this e-learning portal. A knowledge portal was developed. The state and national level workshops was conducted for ensuring that all the best practices and knowledge are disseminated among all the different states, and proper handholding was carried out for all these states. For ensuring that private sector also participates in this process. The private sector is involved through the technology pilots and innovative models and empowerment of experts, so that they are also a part of this project and they can come up with fresh technologies and new technologies. Citizen outreach was carried out for making this Jan Andolan. So a lot of IEC activities was carried out. The concept of Satyagrahis was incorporated, whereby self-help groups, ASHA workers, they were celebrated as Satyagrahis, which are actually the ambassadors of this movement to take the message of Swachhta all across the country. There were multimedia communication campaigns. There were ICT tools for citizen participation. So there was this Swachhta app, which is basically a grievance redressal app. So anybody can post their complaints on this Swachhta app, and this is resolved in a fixed period of time. And in fact, the success of this app is that more than 18 million plus downloads have been carried out till now, and more than 22 million plus citizens' complaint has been resolved on this Swachhta app. There is a Google Toilet Locator app to spot all the public toilets on the Google Maps. So if anybody is going to any area, they can find out which is the nearest public toilet on the Google Map. 1969 Swachhta helpline was also launched so that the citizens' queries can be addressed on the issues related to sanitation. So these are various tools also which have been created, in which actually ensured that citizens thought that they are actually a very important stakeholder for ensuring the Swachhta and the cleanliness in their locality. And through that, they become an important part of this entire movement. So these were some of the successes that the Swachh Bharat Mission Urban was able to create, and what are the various policy and other innovative practices that led to such kind of change. What is the way forward? So we have to ensure that the ODF, the cities which have been declared as ODF, they should remain as ODF, and they should move towards ODF plus and ODF plus plus. So that is one of the way forward. Then the second is that we have to ensure that the byproducts which are generated from the waste management plants, they are being properly marketed, and we should treat waste as wealth. So the concept of waste to wealth has to be incorporated by all the urban local bodies. And more technologies are coming in, more and more new ways, best practices are coming in. So the challenge is to build the capacities of all the urban local officials on these new technologies and the best practices. And IEC campaign also needs to be revitalized, and this has to be reinvented so that it can bring about the necessary behavior change among the population. And also this program has to, in fact, a start has been made for also ensuring that the sewers and sewers should be mechanized. The mechanized cleaning of sewers should be ensured, so that the Safai Karmis which are involved in this cleaning of sewers, they should be having all the proper system and proper tools, so that they should not be exposed to any kind of harmful effects from sewer cleaning. So these are some of the way forwards which in fact the ministries has undertaking that. And I hope that whatever successes have been achieved in Swachh Bharat Mission Urban till now, more and more success will come out, because a robust framework has been established during the initial days of its formation. And we can see all around the success of Swachh Bharat Mission Urban in terms of the sanitation and solid waste management. So this is all about the various initiatives and innovations that have been taken up for the Swachh Bharat Mission Urban, and I thank SKOCH Group for giving this opportunity to present this presentation before all the audience. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Jain. It's quite interesting. One thing that actually comes out shining through is the continuity of efforts, and at the same time the capacity building of the existing workforce. But the challenge has remained, and challenge remains, that when it comes to the digitalization and looking at the corporations, looking at the the departments and the people who have been involved, the average age of an employee is more than 45, and trying to train these people into new practices, the change management has been the biggest challenge. So if I may start with you only, Mr. Jain, how did you handle this change management?
So change management, as I have explained, so one of the issues was the behavior change among the citizens. So that was brought about through more and more involvement of citizens in the process, in the cleanliness process around their areas. So through more like creation of these digital apps, Swachhta app that I have talked about, where citizens can log their complaints, and when they see that their complaints are getting resolved, they become part of this movement, and more involvement was ensured. So as I have explained, more than 18 million plus complaints have been resolved on this portal. There was this concept of Swachh Manch, where all the citizens can come together, they can share the best practices on this Swachh Manch, so that all of them can learn from each other about what kind of best practices their RWAs or their bodies have taken up. So these are some of the ways. Then there are, I can give you a very good examples where children were made, because one of the theme was that children should be sensitized about the sanitation and cleanliness, because it was thought that children are one of the main change agents for if this program has to succeed. Because ultimately they will motivate their parents, they will motivate their families to bring about this change in behavior. And a lot of comics, Amar Chitra Katha was launched with the themes of Swachh Bharat, with the themes of cleanliness, so that they can this can be incorporated in the general whatever they read, whatever they do for their leisure time. So that they should read about this thing. There was a concept of Malasur, so that they can understand what are the issues related to the waste, related to cleanliness, and so that they can through a very playful mode, they can bring about all these good practices in their daily hygiene, and so that they can also motivate their parents to come up with this thing. So a lot of citizen engagement process was carried out. And regarding the capacity building, I agree with you that many of the employees are actually more than 45 years of age, and change management is difficult. But through continuous engagement, through e-learning portals, through hand-holding, through continuous visit to the states, having state workshops. So more than 55,000 employees have taken more than 1 million courses. So that speaks about the kind of transformative mindset that it has brought about in the state government employees for learning new practices and new ways of doing and managing solid waste and sanitation. So I think the process is the framework is in place. The systems are running well, and obviously more it can be further refined to ensure that with the increasing more and more challenges and more new technologies coming up, new ways have to be brought about so that they are geared up to take up this challenge in the near future.
Mm-hmm. So Nitinji, the interface that you have been having via tenders with the contractors and so on and so forth, there also the capacity would be a very big challenge, because while you would have augmented at your end, but getting these capacity of the tendering organizations to come up to and absorb the level of digitalization that you would have done, and also with partial hesitancy and resistance. So it must have been a Herculean task for you. How did you handle it?
Well, I think there are two aspects to it. One is the technological aspect. The other is the attitudinal aspect. Technological aspect has been pretty ingrained in UPPW, because we have the EMB in place. It was already in place before I joined. And so was this Chanakya software, where online transactions in terms of every EMB then gets entered into the Chanakya system, and every bill gets logged in, and we have a real-time payment and expenditure status. So that had already come into place. So technologically, I don't think there was much of an issue, except that the software had to be, whatever its glitches had to be done, that had to be done, removed during the beta testing. But the main thing, you are right, was the attitude towards such a big change, because it comes at the core of the department work. It's not at the periphery. We are not looking at the periphery. We are looking at the core of a tender evaluation process, which is the most contested thing as far as the department is concerned. And there were a lot of pressures, a lot of pulls, pressures, obviously, which our officers were also facing. And I must, to their credit, give full credit to my team and my team of officers that they were the ones who supported this endeavor. Of course, they were the odd ones who were not keen on, and they were trying to sabotage at times these efforts. But most of the people who were looking at this on an objective basis, they supported this initiative, and they were the ones who worked overnight to see that this was actually implemented. And even to this date, they take pride in the fact that they've implemented and executed something like this, which is having a very transformational impact. And for them also, I keep interacting to a lot of XCNs and SCs when I go to the districts and I ask them what impact it has made to their lives. So they said that the pressure that used to be on them from various quarters, that has come down, and they are now able to look at the quality and other aspects of their working. So I think unless there is a buy-in from all quarters, it should be a win-win. For the contractors, of course, it opened up a lot of contracts for them in the sense that they had the confidence that if they participated in it, it would be looked at very objectively, and there would be no subjective issues vis-a-vis some extent doesn't like some contractor, so he doesn't get disqualified. So those issues were not there. The contractors also welcomed it. There was initial resistance in terms of how it will play out, but that was in the initial 1 or 2 months. But now they have kind of got into it. And I think a lot of contractors also welcome it, especially the smaller contractors. The bigger contractors may still feel that because of the bid capacity, their ability to participate in more tenders gets frozen. But it has thrown up a new set of players in terms of the small contractors who are now participating in this exercise.
That's great. I mean, that's quite an interesting scenario, because when we talk about the CPWD and the PWD departments, it starts ringing other bells. And streamlining them becomes a Herculean task. Yeah. So, the process that takes care of all the nitty-gritties itself and is self-explanatory and self-driven. Then have minimum human intervention, and so does. So that way, it helps for the efficiencies within the system to grow. Yeah. Great. Dr. Kumar, the Vision 2025, it looks quite ambitious, and I'm sure, you are well on your way, just about 2 years away from achieving your targets there. The most important part here is that how this expansion is being funded, because for a transport corporation to have the money from within the system is next to impossible, because you can only improve efficiencies and make it online and the ticketing and the common mobility and so on and so forth. So how this entire process is going to be funded? Yeah,
Government of West Bengal has been funding all our projects, like all our infrastructure development projects. Government of West Bengal, they have two modes of funding. One is they give us a plan fund every year. And apart from the plan fund, they have some special scheme where they give infrastructure development related funds also. So all our projects are being funded by the Government of West Bengal. So that is our main source of fund. Other than the Government of West Bengal, we can't expand our corporation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the discussion is, in fact, we are looking at three different parts. We're looking at the urban services, urban development. We're looking at a transport corporation, and we're also looking at the PWD, which is in fact the entire infrastructure building. But yes, the discussion is very, very interesting. What comes out very clear out of the talk that we have had from three gentlemen is that if we take the subjectivity out of the system and let the system be driven by the process, then it becomes easy for all the stakeholders to be onboarded and become an equal part to it. And then it starts to grow. Starts to grow step by step. Importantly, what Dr. Godala talked about, that it's very few transport corporations in the country have such a vision document to 2025 as to where would you like to see yourself, because most of them are still struggling for what next for tomorrow. And with the technological interventions, whether it is to do with the GIS tracking or the ITMS, or some even have gone for the expensive solutions like ERP and so on and so forth. Over a period of time, it looks like that they have to be on their own. And so far, the efficiencies were only marred by way of archaic systems which were there. So as simple as I also heard one of the state transport corporations doing a tire management system. That how many times a tire is to be retreated, what kind of retread is done, and what is the mileage that it. So it's becoming as minute as monitoring even the axles, how many rotations it is doing to see whether it is living up to its the full life cycle, or there are breakdowns which are happening half the way. So that's quite an interesting thing which was never heard of earlier, and I'm sure it'll go a long way. Particularly having the contractor community onboarded is not really an easy task. I mean, easier said than done, that you bring in the computer systems and do a few apps and start watching it. But still, there have to be equal participation and equal utilization of the same. And what I heard from Nitin ji talking about the 11% savings to the entire government, that's quite a huge contribution, because otherwise the leakages into such systems have always been immense. And with the help of stringent documentation monitoring, and I'm sure it is going to scale to further heights. So that's complemented by itself that the number of grievances that you're receiving have reduced to, as you said, just 2 in last 1 year. So what more can you say about this? So our heartiest congratulations to both these efforts, and not to say the least that the kind of work that has been done by Mr. Jain, talking about the entire behavior change, bringing it as a subject of mainstay capacity building, training 15,000 municipal staff, which is what you have done, aligning ASHAs and SHGs, you're making it owned by the community. But till such time, a program of such nature is not owned by the community, people will not really start following it. And a whole lot of innovation is required to do that, because one solution fits all is not what India is. There has to be multiple solutions to fit different kind of situations that we find ourselves in. So to that extent, again, my congratulations for having done a wonderful work. To all the 3 gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us in this session, and we would love to take our discussions further in our future discussions. Thank you very much once again.